First take. Quiet on the set. First take. Action.
They're talking about me though.
So it's been 5 years since you started the Give Back project. And Give Back, what did it mean to you 5 years ago, and what does it mean to you now, instead of giving back?
The Go Back project is kind of an opportunity to celebrate where I am in life and celebrate the people around me and what I've been able to accomplish in life. And so when I launched it 5 years ago, it really grew out of...
Yeah. That's what I pick up.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm just sitting up here putting check water on my hands. Okay, I'm sorry. I should do it.
Just ask the question one more time and then we'll pick up from there.
Okay. Yeah, you started the Go Back project 5 years ago, and what did it mean to you 5 years ago, and what does it mean to you currently since 5 years have passed?
When I started the Go Back project 5 years ago, it was mainly out of a desire to do something to contribute back to the community that I came from. And a lot of people don't know how that idea even started, and it actually grew out of some things that some of my classmates and I were doing around a milestone high school reunion. And I like the idea of giving back to specific communities and doing that on a consistent basis. And so even though it grew out of something that was celebratory, both in terms of what we were doing around, graduating and reaching a certain point in life, but then also personally for me, reaching a certain point in life.
Now, to go back, how important is that to you, even today? Going back, is it a physical return? Is it a mental return? What's the importance of that?
So the idea of going back and giving back is fluid. So it can be whatever a person wants it to be, and that's intentional in how the Go Back project is designed. And so Go Back means go build academically competent kids. That's what Go Back stands for. And so it's the project to do that, to impact communities in a positive way, to make sure that children in communities have the same opportunity to be whatever their dream will guide them toward being. So that's the motivation behind it. We let people who volunteer with the Go Back project decide how that's going to look for them and how that's going to look for the community in which they're involved. When I launched the Go Back project 5 years ago, we were primarily doing backpacks filled with personal care items and self-esteem books. Even though in the back of my mind, I always knew that it was going to be bigger than that. That's how we launched it. So we were filling backpacks with personal care items, soap, deodorant, towels, socks, underwear. And we've talked about it consistently over the last 5 years, how, when you rattle off those things, it seems very normal, but those are things that people go without on a regular basis. So much so that when we adopt families at the holiday time, which is the second part of the Go Back initiative, we have people on the list who are asking for socks and underwear for Christmas. So like if you think back to when you were a kid at Christmas, you probably asked for a G.I. Joe or a Hot Wheels or not underwear and socks, but there are people who are asking for those basic need items even still. And so when you think about, and I don't want to dive into social work and all that kind of stuff, but when you think about Maslow and the hierarchy of needs and those very basic level of needs that people have, if you can't address those basic level needs, then you can never really get to a place where you can be all that you're destined to be, because you're stuck in trying to meet those basic needs.
How would you, in the 5 year period since you started, how do you evaluate or gauge the progress you've made?
So in 5 years, we've had to look at whether we were achieving what we wanted to achieve. And it's a lot bigger than just giving out backpacks. And so I've had the chance to sit down with my board members and people who support us and just to really just talk through what we've been doing over the last 5 years and what that looks like. So we could say, yeah, we've given out more than 2,000 backpacks over 5 years. Okay, that's good. But what else are you doing to impact the lives of people? And so we also can look at collaborations and partnerships that we've built over the last 5 years. One of our most significant and ongoing partnerships has been with the Saginaw Public Schools. And so we get the opportunity to not just impact the lives of children, but the adults who care for them, who are in their lives every day, who are responsible for creating that environment where they're going to be able to dream and to change and to think about who they want to be in life. And so you can plant all the seeds you want to in a child, unless you have adults around them who are nurturing them and fertilizing them and watering them and helping them to grow, then they're never going to grow in the way that they're capable of. And so we look at the number of partnerships that we've been able to do. We evaluate the workshops that we do. If we have the same people coming back to us for support, true enough, our work is relational or relationship based, but if we don't see improvement, then we know, okay, we need to tweak some things because we're not having the impact that we want to have.
And what in terms of the connections, I know you talk about connections and partnerships, whatever, but have you had connections with individuals in the community, and what has that feedback been from them in terms of how it's impacted, or have you seen it, do you ever see measured growth within the individuals that you're targeting?
One of the number one ways in which we know we're having an impact is that we're seeing what we started out doing being replicated by other people. And so we know that it's, okay, that was a good idea. If somebody wants to use your idea in the same way that you used it, you know that it was a good thing. And so we're noticing even in our community, whether it's in Saginaw or Midland or Detroit, we notice that more people are giving out backpacks and more people are getting away from giving out backpacks with normal school supplies, but those personal care items that we talked about. So then, okay, there are more people who are buying into the message. And really that's what it's about. It's not ownership of an idea, because nothing is new under the sun, right? That's what the Bible says. But we want people thinking about the basic ways in which they can help other people. And the more we're able to see that happening, the more we know that we're having an impact. So we have people that we've helped come back to us and say, we want to help you help other people. And that's been very meaningful and very successful for us.
Okay. What are some of the goals that you see for the project going forward for the next 5 years?
Mm-hmm. When I think about the next 5 years of the Go Back Project and what we're going to do and what that could potentially look like, I am beyond excited. Because again, we've gotten away from the idea of just doing the backpack piece. Like, that's always going to be necessary, but we're in the process of acquiring a house through a partnership with another giver that I'm just really excited to be a part of, continuing to build and expand the village, and how we talk about village, and how we always in the Black community talks about it takes a village. And so the next 5 years will include partnering with other village builders to make sure that our impact is larger and what we're doing is larger. And so that's pretty exciting. We're also focused more on doing more family engagement workshops. That was something we launched during the initial 5 years, and then we're ramping that up. We're also launching something called Intelligent Intent. In the next 5 years, we're launching a workshop for girls ages 10 to 16 called Intelligent and Talented Girls, or IT Girls. I know, I chopped that up. In the next 5 years, we're launching a workshop for girls ages 10 to 16 called Intelligent and Talented Girls Workshop. It Girls. I think I should just say It Girls when I talk about it because, you know, I think that's a pretty cool name and a pretty cool way to think about what we're trying to do with girls and get them to think about themselves apart from what their friends say, apart from what society says girls should be, can be, how they should think, look, behave, dress, and just be whatever it is that makes you happy. And so a very good friend of mine launched the idea in Texas because she noticed that her teenage girls were being influenced in ways in which she didn't really value as a mother and as a feminist and as just like a woman in general. And so she started Intelligent and Talented Girls, and it's in its 5th year. And I've had the opportunity to go to Texas to be a speaker, to be involved in the workshop, and to just say, okay, now we got to bring this back to Michigan. And so in 2020, in fact, we're hosting our first It Girl conference in mid-Michigan, where we will focus on self-esteem, career ideas, holistic living. Like, I'm just really big in people being able to look at all of who they are, physically, spiritually, emotionally, socially, psychologically, and just try to bring all those pieces together. And having been a girl at one time, I know how hard it can be to be true to yourself, and still fit in with everybody else, or still want to fit in with everybody else. And so the conference will give the girls a roadmap for how to do that, and I'm really excited about the opportunity to do that.
It sounds like clearly within 5 years, the Go Back Project has encountered a lot of victories or wins, or done some things that you've been proud of. What were some of the challenges or obstacles and lessons learned in that 5-year period that didn't necessarily go so well?
One of the ways I've grown as a person and as a founder and as a leader with the Go Back Project is to really think strategically about the people who are involved and the people who are engaged. And I think when I first started out, I wanted people who, when I talked about what I wanted to do and this idea of the Go Back Project, they were like, oh yeah, I want to be a part of that. And so I've just really learned you can't take your friends with you when you have something that you believe is your calling or your destiny or your objective in life. Like, there's some people who will get it right away and they'll just roll with you. And then there's some people who try to live vicariously through you. And so just being able to understand that, yeah, I might want everybody to go with me and I need everybody to go with me, but I don't need everybody to go with me, and be able to have those difficult conversations when it's like, okay, yeah, I know you're not feeling it, you got a different agenda than what we're trying to do, you know, maybe you might need to go start your own nonprofit. Yeah, just being able to have the difficult conversations has been one of the ways in which I've grown most as a leader.
Okay. And certainly with the Go Back Project, I'm sure when you actually launched it and went back, you saw things that were a little different from what you may have called in your neighborhood or areas that you go back to. Have there been other changes? Like you said, you started the It Girl Project. I guess not a response to things you saw were going on. Mm-hmm. What other things have you learned that weren't there 5 years ago that are kind of existing now, and problems that you want to address that weren't there when you started this 5 years ago?
So 5 years ago, when I launched the Go Back Project, it was specifically to address the needs in the community where I came from. And a lot of people that I know came from. So the east side of Detroit, Harper, Gratiot, Van Dyke, that whole area. And to just really address the fact that there were no more schools in that area. There was only one school remaining in that area. My middle school had closed, my high school had closed, and my elementary school was the only educational institution still remaining in that neighborhood, and how unacceptable that was. And so I really wanted to focus my efforts on that community because I had had a chance to go back and talk to the students at that school under a different principal and be able to say to kids, you know what, yeah, my name is Dr. Nikita Murray, but, you know, I grew up as Nikki on May Street. And if I grew up on May Street and I'm Dr. Murray, you can grow up on whatever street you're on, Georgia, Van Dyke, Fields, Bessemer, wherever, and you can be the best that you can be too. And so to be able to be that example for people for children in a very tangible and touchable way was really important to me. At the same time, even though the school that I started out working with is in my heart, when leadership changes, you have to be able to adapt with the leadership. And so the relationship that I had hoped to have with that school didn't really materialize in the way that I wanted. So we were just providing things for them, which is cool. People need things. I'm okay with that. So, but we've had the chance to initiate a new relationship with another school on a different side of town. Again, through, you know, just not by happenstance, but it's like, okay, this person is working over at that person went to school, the same school you went to, and they're doing this. Okay, somebody's doing something great. Let me see how I can support them in doing something great to impact kids. And so now we actually have a relationship that we've developed with the school on the west side of Detroit, which, you know, for East Siders, if you know anything about Detroit, East Siders don't go on the west side. We don't mess with the west side, none of that. But there are children everywhere in Detroit. And if my heart is with helping children in Detroit, then it doesn't really matter whether they're on the east side or the west side or wherever. We just want to help the babies in Detroit. So being able to cut off a relationship, go with another.
Okay. And similarly, with your experiences in Saginaw and Midland, in those areas, did you find some similarities to what you found in your neighborhood on the east side, and were you able to apply some of the same things that you did there to Midland and Saginaw, even though they're different cities?
One of the reasons why I really enjoy my partnership with Saginaw Public Schools is that Saginaw reminds me a lot like growing up in Detroit. You know, it's urban, it's predominantly black in some areas, or in Saginaw Public Schools, that's predominantly black. Most frequently lower income, most frequently undereducated or underserved, I should say. And so it almost seems normal to have the relationship that I do with Saginaw Public Schools, and I'm really grateful for that. You know, when I think about other parts of the Great Lakes Bay region, so Bay County, Saginaw County as a whole, Midland County, Isabella County, there is nothing like there's nothing like Midland in Detroit. I think the closest thing would probably be Grosse Pointe. And you know, growing up in Detroit, we didn't really spend a whole lot of time in Grosse Pointe and in neighboring suburbs, and so that's what Midland is like. And so there's really this misnomer that, you know, well, there's no poverty in Midland, but yeah, it is. And so I don't see the numbers that I would like to see there. However, that's why the It Girls is so important, because it provides us with the opportunity to reach girls directly and have an impact directly on young females outside of family income or schools or perceptions of affluence and all that kind of stuff that gets in the way.
Now, Nikita, are you going to say anything about using the B-roll footage that we took? Or you want a question geared towards that?
Yeah, so we did some B-roll at the Old 4-H Center and some of MAC. And what I talked about with them and what I shared with them earlier is that the MAC experience, more so than anything, was really how I learned to view people from a humanistic perspective. So, you know, and coming to Highland Park Community College. So, you know, seeing prostitutes on Sunday morning and seeing prostitutes at 7 o'clock in the morning while I'm at the bus going, I'm like, I'm going to college, how come you're not going to college? That kind of stuff. So that's part of our B-roll. That's what Dan is talking about.
Okay, so the MAC experience, how does the MAC experience influence what you're doing with the Go Back project?
So, my friends tease me a lot, even today, about spending all my time at church because I pretty much spent all my time at church. And it prepared me in a lot of ways that I'm grateful for now as an adult that I can look back on. But even as a mental health professional, as one who works with people to heal and to address social justice issues. Like when I think back on going to church on Mack and Belvedere, you know, there's a church and a liquor store on pretty much every corner. That was where I was introduced to the idea that people are people, they're human beings, they all come from different experiences in life that have led them to be the person that they are at that moment in time when we encounter them. And so to just see everybody as human beings. So we would actually have prostitutes who would, or sex workers is what we're calling them now, but would show up at church and they would come in and, you know, in my naiveness even, I tried to give, I laugh at this now, but I tried to give this young prostitute some clothes because I felt like, man, if she had some clothes to wear to church, she would feel better about herself and she wouldn't have to wear her hooker clothes. I'm like, you know what? She was trying to make $5. She don't really care about how she dressed. And just really being able to accept people as they are in that moment. And Mac Avenue taught me that.
Okay. So that's something that you use in the Go Back project today, even, or in your work as a mental health.
So I use the Mac experience in my work with women who have been in abusive relationships, who have been sexually assaulted, who have been sexually misused. Oftentimes there are things that have happened in their lives, and those types of things have happened in their lives that lead to them living out an existence that's, you know, not what they might have dreamt of as a kid. I often say, you know, people don't fall in love with somebody who's going to be beating them upside their ears. Like, no, when I grow up, I want somebody who's going to smack me in the face. That's not the dream that we have when we're playing with our Barbie and Ken, right? So something happens to people, and it can either impact how they live positively or what we call unhealthy. And so when I think about the MAC experience, I think about how to see people through the lens of, or by asking the question, I wonder what happened in their lives to lead to them being where they are. And all of that is part of the Go Back Project work. Good? Yay. I get to get off the hot seat. Thank you, Arthur.